Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's the Political Brown Kid here. And I just wanted to kind of bring this to everyone's attention just to kind of get your feedback and just kind of really just to put this information out there because I believe this to be true. But if you have comments to the contrary, or maybe you want to add different context to it, definitely feel free to drop some comments in the comment section. But also, too, right now, hit the like and subscribe button because definitely I want you guys to check this content out and I want this content to proliferate to other people. But the problem that we're seeing in the dating world is stemming really from this. We see a lot of struggle and debate between men and women, and this has been going on since I think 2014, even since the early 2000s. And what you're seeing is the struggles between modern women and men. Notice how they always say when you hear about these conversations, you always hear the term modern women. You never hear the term modern men. So all of these assumptions are operating off of women are modern. And when you're modern, that means you have evolved, right? That's what it means to modernize something. Something has evolved, it has progressed for the better, supposedly. So you hear all of these talk about modern women, but you always hear people refer to men in the traditional sense. So, and this is very important. So that's why I say right now we are caught fundamentally in a paradigm shift. If you don't know what a paradigm shift is, you need to look it up. But okay, I'll save you the time. It is just basically when there is a change in culture or values or operation and or methodology and mindset. So you're looking at this as we're having a fundamental paradigm shift in male-female relationships and dynamics. And this is not nothing new. This has been going on since women's rights and since like what the 70s when the women's movement really kicked off. But now it's kind of amped up because, women are more and more involved in society. If you look at it, they've crept into more and more spaces. You can't watch NBA or the NFL without seeing, now women referees, women analysts, so forth and so on. So the paradigm shift has been rapidly occurring because now you see a rapid growth in CEOs, women are in the tech space. Women are, starting businesses and being, managers or executives in these spaces, and women are pursuing degrees at a rapid rate. And women have shifted. That paradigm shift is they've definitely shifted from being, quote unquote, in the background to want to be in the foreground. So you're hearing all of this talk about modern women. Modern women, can men handle modern women? You never hear what about the modern man? Can women handle the modern man? So the problem that you're seeing occur is that women want to be modern, but they expect the man to be traditional. And also vice versa. It could be possibly that you have men, they're modernized, they don't realize it, they have modern values, and sometimes their expectation is to have a woman that has more traditional values in certain areas. So what I mean by that is this. When you start modernizing things, and let me just use this example before I go into that. When you looked at slavery, the end of slavery, there was a paradigm shift because it was like once you had this role, you had the role between whites and blacks. The role was whites were superior, blacks were inferior. Whites worked, blacks were free labor. Whites had rights and laws protecting them, blacks did not. Now with blacks being quote unquote emancipated here in the United States, now it's like this paradigm shift. Now you had the whole Reconstruction era where all of these blacks were hired as representatives in Congress and in the Senate. You had blacks now working as paid labor. You have all of these rights being extended to blacks, and now it's like, now how do blacks and whites interact with each other? Now, you call a black person a boy, he's going to push back and say, don't you call me a boy. And now it's like, well, before, we would have taken drastic action for you getting uppity with me, but now I can't. So you have this back and forth between blacks and whites. And that paradigm shift is still continually happening if you look at it. You can look at it through like the Black Lives Matter movement, where you have people jockeying for more rights, more more dialogue and more discussion about race and the evolution of race. You have individuals that pushing forth different agendas, and you have a lot of white people like still thinking that, oh, I thought things were better, I didn't know, or I think you guys are, whites are looking at it from a different perspective, like, come on, man, you're holding me to different standards that people generations ago did. Oh, I didn't know this was occurring, and they're kind of playing the ignorant perspective, like I didn't know, or I wasn't aware of these circumstances, or trying to deflect blame and putting it on their previous generations. And you're seeing a lot of that occurring now with men and women. Women blaming men for certain things. They're wanting these advancements. And then now with relationships, and I'm just going to really focus on the relationship aspect of it, it's like women are evolving into, well, let me go before that. Women didn't make money, or if they did, they earned very little money pre-feminism. So it was always the man's role to take care of a woman financially because, of course, she did not earn money. So, of course, the burden was on the man to, when he took a woman out, or if he took a woman out, he was going to pay for those meals, because that was fundamentally what the man's role was. The man's role was, I get the financials. The woman's role was, I control the household. I control, I govern these four walls. I dictate, how the kids are going to be, kind of like I control the upbringing of the kids. I control, the household. I control really the expenses, because your grandfather and all of them back in the day, when they made money, they gave it to the wife and she managed the funds. He had his little bit of allotment that he would put in his pocket. And, he'd go and probably get his little taste, or do whatever it is he did with his, got his little booze and his little hooch or whatever they called it. But he had his little spending change, but for the mostly, she managed the money. So, but when you look at it today, it's like now women are working, women are earning just as much as a man, if not more. But now it's like they want to still hold on to that traditional value of, well, you have to take care of me and you have to be the one to pay for these things. Well, no, that's what if you're going to be a modern woman and you want to modernly work, you have to accept the modern man's values, because think about this. If you're making all of this money, and even that goes to the 50-50 argument, even if you're not even dating, even if you're past the dating and you're into the we live together, whether you're just cohabitating or you're in love and you're married, think about this. If a man is still supposed to pay all of the 100% of the expenses of the house, or even 90% of the expenses of the house, you get to stack your cash. And then look at the divorce rates and who initiates the divorces. Most of the divorces are initiated by educated women, and it's at a rate of 70%. So that women want to leave marriages and walk away. Look at Tyrese's situation. You can even look at, now I'm hearing about Tiana Taylor. I never thought that they would have gotten a divorce. And it doesn't even seem like he did anything wrong. She's like, man, no. It's the people are just walking away just because they've simply grown apart. People are too lazy to work on their relationship. They just rather jump into something new with other people. It's ridiculous. But that's a whole different conversation. But why should a man have to flip the bill for 90% of the home assets while you get to stack your cash in your bank account? Probably stack, let's just say, for example, he's spending all of basically he might as well be single and have his own apartment. If he has to pay for everything, plus he got an additional person burning up the heat and electricity and the utilities in the house, and you're not going to do anything, and he has to cut the grass, or at least pay for somebody to cut the grass. If he has to burn through all of these expenses and all you get to do is stack your cash and put it into some account where you can get compounded interest, or you get to throw your money into Amazon stock or Microsoft stock, and then let your money, grow, and then you walk away with hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, because you've invested it. And then he's just stuck with what? And then you still probably going to try to get the house from him because you're just that petty. So why is it going 50-50? If you're going to be a modern woman, you have to accept a modern man. And you have to say, okay, well, if this is the way that it's going to be, this is the way that it is. You have to be able to say, if I'm making money and if I plan or expect to go out on dates, then there has to be some kind of expectation. If you have an expectation of being taken out on a date, then and you want to go to fancy places, then you should have the expectation that, hey, I'm going to have to flip some of these bills for or some of these expenses for that. So this modernness, it's really kind of destroying relationships because, like I said, we're caught in a paradigm shift where people are not establishing boundaries. Because that's one of the things that people should kind of do is kind of set those expectations to say, once we get together, how are we going to operate? Because normally most people gravitate towards particular roles that were traditional, right? I don't think most women are going to gravitate towards cutting the grass, not unless you have the great equipment, like you have like a zero turn lawnmower to ride on and stuff. But most people are going to gravitate towards those traditional roles of I'm going to do the cooking here and I'm going to do the cooking there. But you have to have something established, or at least have some type of structure as to how you're going to operate within a relationship. And you have to be accepting that if you're going to be a modern woman, that, hey, I'm going to have to accept a modern man and I'm going to have to compromise. But the problem is, a lot of us don't want to compromise. We just want to be modern, but we expect the other person to be traditional. And that's even with men. Men want to be, they want to have some traditionality in their women. You hear all of this talk about, women. I don't know what it means. Like, I hate these terms like submission and alpha and all the, even a modern, I hate all of these terms. But when you want a man that wants a woman to submit to him, but then yet he wants her to do 50-50, you have to say, well, what does that look like? So that's why I say all of this stuff is not necessarily wrong. It's just that we're right now caught in a paradigm shift. And we have to really sort through, as far as with the females, and I think that this is what I would hope gets discussed, is that the females need to say, well, what is it that we'll accept from modern men? Or what is it that we'll compromise on? Because that's what it takes. I know women want to say they're not going to compromise their values, but you have to compromise your values. That's what relationships are about. And compromise means settle. You're not going to have to settle for certain things. You're not going to be able to get everything in one person. You're not. So not unless you're just going to get into poly relationships, you're going to have to start settling and say, I'll bend on these things if you bend on those things. So I just wanted to drop that. Once again, this is the Political Brown Kid. Take care.